I'm great. Thanks for coming on. And we're going to have a conversation with Lindsay. She's our new substance abuse coordinator at Victor Central School District. This is a new position that we felt was incredibly important to have to really work with our students around alcohol and other drugs, and both the potential experimentation with those alcohol and other drugs, as well as potential people, youngsters who may get involved beyond experimentation as well. So there's a lot to her job, but I do want to ask her first. Lindsay, tell us a little bit about your background and why you made such a great fit for us to work as our new substance abuse coordinator. Sorry.
Absolutely. So I am a licensed mental health counselor and a credentialed alcoholism and substance abuse counselor. So I have worked in the treatment field with adults and with teenagers. And then I've also worked in the mental health field, and I've done prevention work in different districts as well. So I'm super excited to bring all of that experience together in my work at Victor.
Yeah. So your background really is in mental health. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would you, as a social worker? Originally,
Licensed mental health counselor. So I have worked, I went to Fisher for my master's program in mental health counseling, and then I worked specifically in treatment. And while I was working in treatment, I went on to get my additional credential for an alcoholism and substance abuse counselor, and then continued to work into the field.
So let's see, you're starting your third month, or is it fourth month on the job here?
My third month here.
What do you see as the major roles in your position in Victor?
I'm really excited to be able to have a combination of both prevention and intervention. So we'll be looking at growing some prevention opportunities K-12. I was just in the 7th grade health class today, starting some conversations about vaping. Excited to go back again tomorrow, and then I'll be expanding with the high school health classes, looking to grow some of that work at our 4-6 level as well. And then working with our students across the district as situations arise and the need for support. And that's something that I offer to students, but it's also something I can offer to parents. If there's questions from parents, or if they are wondering how they can support their students and how they can be prepared to support their students, I'm looking forward to being able to support the parents through those journeys as well.
So I don't want to mess this up, but from our conversations, I've already learned that, I think alcohol and other drugs usage is a symptom of usually, whether it's somebody's emotions and being able to deal with their emotions, or mental health in general. What is the relationship, to mental health and emotions in relation to the usage of our adolescents with alcohol and other drugs?
That's a great question. And it's really difficult to tease out because the two are so enmeshed. So whether someone is experimenting and curious, and through that, they might realize that when they use a substance, it fills a need, or it helps cope with an emotion that they're struggling with. Or on the other side, they recognize that they're struggling with emotions and they're actively seeking out ways to cope, and they stumble on substance use as the way that ends up in the moment helping them through that. It's not healthy. It's what we call a maladaptive coping strategy, but it's serving a purpose. And it's important that we understand that the behavior and the use is serving a purpose at that time. And it's really important that we access our resources and get the right support for our students, so that they can be working on how they can fill that need and move on in the healthiest way without the need for those substances.
So, I don't even know if it makes sense, but so you work with kids and families before kids have experimented with alcohol and other drugs, but then you've also got many parents out there who are initially dealing with kids experimenting with alcohol and other drugs. So, I don't know this is where this is difficult, but what would be your advice to parents before, in terms of strategies to use before anybody would start experimenting with it? And then maybe we talk a little bit about the strategies for parents when they find out, or if they find out that their kid has experimented with something they shouldn't be.
Yeah. So the first suggestion I have for all of our parents, all the way down to, UPK, all the way up to 12th grade is really working on having that open dialogue and setting the expectations at the household and being consistent with those expectations about non-use and about your expectations around safety, but also realizing that those conversations about substance use at the youngest level are about learning how to respond when we feel different emotions and how do we handle our emotions in a way that's going to help us manage them, but also move through them in a healthy way. It's also about taking every little opportunity that comes up to us and not avoiding the difficult conversations, but pausing and giving it time to really have a thoughtful conversation with our kids, whether they're 6, 10, 12, 14, 16. If your child's asking your opinion on something, they value your opinion on something. And very often our kids, even if we think they don't want to hear their answers, they do. They're looking to us for guidance. They're looking to us for those boundaries, but also to really know what we think about things. And we are the ones that know them the best. So lean into those questions, be comfortable with getting uncomfortable and answering them and just hearing them out and hearing their thoughts, because you might be surprised. And some of those conversations end up being some of the best conversations you can have.
Mhm.
Now,
What about if, okay, so now I'll walk in the basement and I've discovered, my kid who has been for the first time, or at least I think for the first time, maybe experimenting with stuff he or she shouldn't be experimenting with.
Yep. So all those emotions that are going to come are normal and natural. But the really important thing to remember is it's still your child. It's still that same person that you have loved from the moment that you guys met. And it's really important to keep in mind that your feelings are most likely probably out of fear. And so keeping that in check and also leaning again into those resources that you have. So taking it head on, talking to them about what were they doing? Were they experimenting? What was the purpose of their use? And not being afraid to feel like you're taking it seriously, because that again sends that message to them that I'm listening to you, I'm here for you, but I also don't condone this. And I don't think this is healthy for you. And I don't want this to continue. So we're going to figure out why this is going on. We're going to talk about it and we're going to address it. But we're also going to make it clear that we want to move beyond this. We want to figure out a better, healthier way for you. So whether it's experimentation and it was the first time, that's going to send a quick message to your child. But if it's not the first time and you're able to figure out that this has been going on longer, that's the time to lean into those outside resources. You can contact me at the school. You can contact your child's pediatrician. There's tons of resources in the community. We have some great resources, especially for vaping in our community. So U of R specifically has a great free program for vaping for youth. It's an online only 30-minute completely free session called Vape Escape just for teens. And that's something that's great for parents to know about because it's convenient, it's easy, accessible for us to get assistance, but vaping still is a big issue for our youth. So it's important to know that there's lots of different resources, and there's resources in our community that are trying to be easily accessible for youth and for families.
What's maybe I just sound ignorant when I ask this, but obviously vaping has come around in somewhat recent, recently over the last few years, maybe. I don't know how long it's been around, actually. I'm getting older. But why is it so risky for kids to vape? And why is it such an issue, I would say, in all of our schools right now?
Absolutely, it's an issue in all of our schools. So when you're talking about vaping, you have a couple different options in terms of what is even in the vape. So that's one thing, is sometimes teens, even adults, are not even sure what they actually are vaping. So you might talk to a teen who was caught vaping and ask them, do you know what's in it? And they don't have a clue, and they don't know how to tell if it's a marijuana vape or a nicotine vape, because both are very easy to get access to. And so when you have a situation where a child's not even sure what they're using, that's a concern. The accessibility of both is a concern, but when we talk about nicotine, we have to think about all the dangers that come from cigarettes and we've made them even more accessible with the vapes. And the companies did a great job at making them easy for youth to hide, easy for them to mask, and find ways for our youth to get addicted to them. With marijuana, we also have to remember that the marijuana vapes are not the same as traditional marijuana that some people might think about. A lot of these vapes are at THC concentrates of over 80% up to 90, 95%. So that's an extremely high level of THC that children are taking in if they're using marijuana vapes. So there's lots of concerns about the substances. There's lots of concerns about how addictive they are. And it's something that we want to be addressing as soon as we're aware of.
How do you, as a recommended parents, having conversations around vaping?
So similar to any substance, because it's important that when we're having conversations, we're remembering that the impact of any substance is going to be similar for our youth and their brain development. So it's really helpful for parents to use facts and talk about things that have proof behind them, but also things that are going to impact youth. So youth are going to be very impacted by things that they care about. Money and the financial impact of vaping is something that they usually relate to. They tend to relate to things like its impact on the environment. So you can have all of the facts, all of the science, you can get that on all the websites, but being able to tie the effect of vaping or the effect of drug use to something that is going to relate to your child specifically is going to make it more relatable to them and have a bigger impact.
Red Ribbon Week is coming up. I believe is it October 23rd starts?
It's the 23rd through the 31st. We will be celebrating it that first week leading up to Halloween.
So from your expertise, Lindsay, how do we make it Red Ribbon Week more than, well, first of all, just a week that we focus on, positive behaviors and the dangers of alcohol and other drug use, and also more than just, a bunch of activities that are fun, which is good, but turn it into, in your opinion, something that actually makes a difference for our kids and our parents?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for us to look at the conversations we're having, but also look to put prevention strategies into our everyday life. So this year, the calendar, I worked with some amazing participants from our PTSA, and they put together some great ideas, and we've blended that energy in the Spirit Week with some strategies. So each day has a theme that has a little fun spirit that goes with it, and also some strategies that parents can try, that some of the staff at the schools are going to try, to really teach some of these basic prevention strategies and things that parents and families can continue to do every day throughout their life with their child to encourage healthy choices and a healthy lifestyle. So for instance, on Pajama Day, we're talking about sleep hygiene. So I think most parents can agree that sleep is a struggle for a lot of children, especially our teens. So there's a lot of habits that are linked in our resources about healthy habits, how you can work on increasing your sleep, and all the benefits of sleep and what it really does to help our brain develop in a healthy way.
How are you finding, I know you just started in the job, but how are you finding our community resources for parents around alcohol and other drug use? And, what do you see as maybe an area we want to focus on to connect with community?
I think that I have had the opportunity to work a lot with the Partnership for Ontario County and hear a lot about their resources and the coalition. And they have some phenomenal resources for our parents and our youth. We have family support centers that are available. We have Black Road. We have a lot of resources in Ontario County that are available. And I think people are still learning about them. And that is one thing that I would love to see more awareness of, and people really understanding all of the services and all of the free services that are available. There's some great teen centers and things that are accessible for our youth. I would love to also echo things like when it comes to vaping, Monroe County has the wonderful addition of Eco Park. There you can dispose of vapes in a healthy way, which is really important. And I know that's something that Ontario County, they are looking to grow, and I look forward to seeing that grow and develop as well. but there's some great partnerships between Monroe County and Ontario County as well. So there's a lot of great resources for prevention, for treatment, for community engagement, and a lot of mental health services all within our reach.
What do you think is the greatest or biggest issue right now, in your professional opinion, in relation to, I don't know, I guess your role at Victor now, or just in the whole realm of substance use and abuse?
I think hands down that would be stigma. We're doing a good job of working on stigma when it comes to mental health concerns and engaging mental health conversations and encouraging people to access supports. There's still a lot of stigma around substance use and substance misuse, and stigma that impacts people's acceptance and people's fear at times in accessing help and accessing those resources. So I would love to increase the understanding about what addiction truly is, what substance use, misuse, and addiction looks like, and how we can all benefit from understanding that it really truly can happen to anyone, any family. And it's important that we understand that and that we provide support and understanding and no judgment.
So from what, you've taught me really is, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but a couple things. One, we all behave in certain ways based upon our emotional state. And there's some parts of our emotional state that are good and positive, and we want to continue that feeling. But then there's sometimes when we feel lousy, and those are all the negative emotions that we all have. And we want to eliminate those because they don't feel good in any way, shape, or form. And sometimes people make choices to deal with those feelings and those emotions by taking substances that, at least short term, make them feel better. Is that oversimplified? It is a little simple, but I mean, and then I guess the bad news is when you start to use alcohol or other drugs for that type of, feeling or self-medication, many of them are addictive.
Yep.
Physiologically. And then it just turns into for lack of a better word, a snowball effect that's in a negative role.
Yeah. And when we're talking about adolescents and our youngest adults whose brains are still developing, the chances of that use becoming addiction is increased. Their brain is still growing, and it's like a sponge, and anything we put into it has an impact on the way we develop. So it's really important that we are providing all of that pro-social preventative development throughout our youngest learners all the way through our 12th grade learners. But it's also important that we embrace students when they do hit those hurdles, and we help them identify why they're making these choices and find those healthier options. Mm-hmm. Because whether it's substance use, whether it's self-injuring, whatever it is, it serves a purpose for that child at that time. It's about us understanding and realizing that they're still the same kid and they just hit a bump, and we have to help them through that bump. And even you taught me this too, Lindsay, even some behaviors that are typically considered positive, if it's in excess, it can be detrimental to the health and well-being of a person. So, yep. And that's also something to keep an eye on, because there's certain behaviors that, again, whether it's exercise or eating and any other types of behaviors that typically would be fine if they're done in excess, because especially for reasons to try to alleviate certain emotional feelings or things that are really bringing you down, then it's not a good thing. Yep. Life is about balance. Everything is in balance. And so if things are in moderation and in balance, for the most part, it's okay. But anytime we're avoiding or we're numbing or we're using something as an escape, those are like warning signs that that's getting into an unhealthy realm. So any ways that people, if I'm a parent and my child, I have either questions around this whole concept, and my child right now or children right now are not
experimenting, but you're worried they're, you want to prevent it, obviously, or our kids are experimenting or using it more often than experimentation? What are ways that parents can reach out to the school?
Yep.
Or even, or even you, what do you recommend?
So absolutely, they can reach out to the counseling departments at their schools at any time. Also on our district website, under the mental health resources, there's a link to my website. I believe it's labeled Substance Use Prevention and Treatment Resources. And there is a full section on national and local prevention strategies, tips on how to talk to your kid, starting at preschool all the way up to 12th grade, conversation starters, tips, some resources. There's a variety of, again, treatment resources, local and national, and a lot of other contact resources as well. So you can contact your own building supports. You can access those through the website. I'm happy to speak with anybody. Your child's pediatrician is also an amazing resource and often a trusted one, but we're happy to help through the school.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to add? Anything I forgot to ask you, or any closing comments you want to make?
I think the only closing comment I would say is just start the conversation. It's never too late, but it's never too early. So don't be afraid to start the conversation. Figure out how to have that conversation, whatever age your child is, and keep the conversation going.
That's right. Well, we are so thankful, Lindsay, you chose us to work with, and your role has been something I know since I started as superintendent. I've heard from many different people that we really need it, and we found a great person to fill it. So thank you so much for everything you're doing for our families and our kids, and appreciate your expertise and coming on and spending a little bit of your Tuesday night with us. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Take care.